your fur babies sleep in your house every night? I'll teach you how co-sleeping with your pets may be harmful, as well as how you can safely share a bed with your favorite fur babies. Our favorite dogs and cats usually enjoy cuddling up close to us at night for 3 reasons. Number 1, just to be close, they like the way it feels. Number 2, to know that we are safe and sound. They want to feel secure. And number 3 is a pack instinct that goes back hundreds of years. By sleeping with you, your dogs and cats are saying, hey, you've been accepted into our pack. The 2 most important things to keep your animals safe when co-sleeping is position, but also to keep the area around your ears, eyes, nose, and mouth clear and clean and safe. Don't ignore either one of these points, or you may end up at the doctor with an unusual condition the way that I did. Throughout this video, you will identify what could cause health problems when living and sleeping with pets. Your needs will be different than other viewers here on this Sawdust and Cornbread channel. It just depends on the area where you live, the type of animals you have, and how many of them you do have. If you have mainly outdoor animals, say ducks and goats and chickens, sleeping situations and co-sleeping aren't so much of a concern. But there are other health concerns that you need to be aware of to keep the pets and your family safe. As a formulator, I'm always interested in possible pathogens and the benefits of living with all our little furry, feather, and scaled friends. You need to research 2 things about the type of animals you share your home and yard with. Number 1, what are the proper living conditions for that particular species? If you have domesticated ducks that don't fly, you'll need a way to keep them warm and bring them in on the coldest days of the year. If you're feeding or have a pond for migrating birds or ducks, keep the pond edges free from excessive mud and waste to keep them healthy. As a side note, you shouldn't feed either of them bread from your pantry. That is a big health no-no, whether you're feeding wild ducks or domestic ducks. In this video, I'll show you ways to keep your pets, your animal friends safe, as well as your family. You'll also want to research the possible sicknesses and diseases your favorite pets can cause in humans when they are in close contact. Some pet breeds are more likely to trigger allergies or have dramatic effects on the health of elderly, young, and immune-compromised individuals. As I found out, the type of fur, hair, feathers, scales, or whatever your pet has can also affect your sleeping arrangements and how that pet can adversely affect your health as well as theirs. Here are 2 tips for staying healthy, you and your pet, when co-sleeping with your pets. Number 1, keep them off your pillow. Ask your vet if they recommend particular equipment or barriers to keep you and your pet safe while sharing a bed or bedroom. This is an essential tip because I didn't realize the risks. I had to go to the doctor to find out that my little dog sleeping with me led to my problem. Here are my tips for living half being safe, and we have beagles, a Chihuahua Cavalier mix, a cockatiel, 4 ducks, and a fish. Based on our area, I will first check the animal's specific needs to keep it healthy. If it's outside, what temperatures can it withstand? What protection does it need? What natural predators are in our area? I need the correct housing or fencing for those conditions. Electric fencing for coyotes and foxes, for example, also a solid floor and stiff wire mesh will deter skunks from digging into the duck house outside. I also need to know what supplies to keep on hand in case of an animal's sickness or emergency. It's always better to have those up front ahead of time than trying to scrounge them up and find them in the midst of a medical emergency with your pet. I did a video on helping our sweet duck Pope with an injured wing. It's essential to be prepared. Minutes can be the difference between life and death for small animals. The first tip is to prepare a place for your pets to sleep safely. When I say safe, I mean for you and the pet. Try to find a spot where they will feel secure, know you're available, and won't affect your health or your family's health. You don't want your pets too close to your face when sleeping because of potential health effects. I found that out the hard way, and I'll share a little more about that later on in the video. My newest pet hack is to keep something warm and fuzzy below the area my pillow would be on. This keeps my little dog from snuggling up to my neck and my face, even though he likes it. Having something warm and fuzzy draws him away from my head. I know they are irresistible and so cozy, but keeping my little fur baby up against my head caused some real problems for me. I've always enjoyed sleeping with our dogs as long as we had them. They're warm and loving. We let them on the bed every night, even if it crowded us. We sacrificed to have them nearby. That has changed now. Here are some sleeping hacks for sharing your home with your animals. They don't have to sleep in your bed, and definitely right up in your face to feel loved and accepted in your family. Have a safe place on a comfy fleece throw or bed in your bedroom or living room. Some dogs and cats like being in a tighter space while sleeping. Caging them is not cruel if they feel safe, secure, and comfortable. It's actually a way of protecting your pet and your family. Add lots of blankets or towels to the crate or cage so they can snuggle in and feel secure. The number 2 hack for helping your little pet feel safe and secure when sleeping is to heat a sock filled with rice in the microwave. To keep your kitties, doggies, and your family safer, make them inexpensive, warm, and snuggly items to sleep with. If not, they may naturally gravitate toward your head. Cats and tiny dogs particularly like to cuddle into the hair on your head and feel the warmth all night long. A heated rice sock is a much better alternative. But here's a problem with many of my viewers. They are not willing to try to stop sleeping with their pets. And I understand the desire to have all of them with you all night. One little dog will probably sleep with me until he crosses the Rainbow Bridge. He's too old and incapacitated to begin sleep training now. However, after the ordeal with my ear, any new pets and all of our older pets are going to be off the bed. The bed is simply off limits. My tip is to begin training your animals from a young age when it is okay and not okay for them to lie with you. You may even have specific areas dedicated to animal snuggles and cuddles. You may find your kitty jumping on that cozy corner chair whenever she wants extra love and attention from you. Then at night, bedtime is non-negotiable. This is where you sleep every night. If I were to bring a new puppy home with me today, rather than bringing it into my bed when it gets all whiny and fussy at night, I would go and get a pillow and sleep with it in its safe place, because that is when these routines are set in their minds. For those who have pets like my little old man dog who may be too old, it's not too late to set some boundaries. Now that the doctor has discovered why my ear was acting up, I keep my pillow completely clear of any pet hair at night. My little dog knows it's bedtime once I put him on the bed. If he sneaks up to my face or head, I redirect him with a soft blanket or a preheated area to lie on. The following pet sleeping tips are for those who are willing to not sleep with their pets in their bed. Tip number 3 is to cover your pet's crate or cage with a twin-size washable sheet at night. We have a gray twin-size sheet that we cover our cockatiel with every night when it's time for him to go to bed. It keeps him warmer and prevents light from disturbing him. This helps him to sleep better. It helps my daughter's health by preventing feathers and dander from floating over her bed while she sleeps. All pets will occasionally groom themselves for hygiene or comfort during the night. That grooming releases feathers, fluff, hair, fur, and dander into the air. It settles on your bed or on your pillows and can end up in your nose, mouth, and ears. You're not awake to feel it and get rid of it, so it can become lodged into your lungs or your mucous membranes. Yuck! When you use a small sheet to cover their cages or crates, you can easily launder it. Just don't use any strongly scented detergents or fabric softeners. Those can irritate or even harm the respiratory systems of birds, dogs, and cats. But here is another problem some of my viewers may have. Pets and people don't sleep as well if they can't see each other at night. But I have a solution for you as well. What you're going to do is cover the cage or crate after you have followed all my other pet sleeping tips based on the needs and comfort of the animal. You will use small binder clips to make a tiny opening where your animal can see you and you can see them peeping out through the night. You don't need to expose the entire cage or crate to keep an eye on your favorite fur baby. Then, after you've made your little window, you can be sure your little one sees you. You will be less stressed, and so will your pet. They'll be snug, secure, comfortable, and able to know you are nearby. If they're a lot smaller than the cage, like if they haven't quite grown into their cage yet, sometimes it's kind of overwhelming and they don't feel as snug and secure in a big open crate or cage. They do make little dividers that you can buy to put in there, but here's another idea. Roll up some old towels or an old inexpensive blanket. You can even add a warm 2-liter bottle inside for them to snug up to. There are many ways to make them feel secure without being in the bed with you. Here are 4 great pet sleep tips. Number 1, be consistent with bedtime. Number 2, have a bedtime routine. Ducks love and thrive on routines. If you do the same things with them in the same exact order at the exact same time every day, they practically take care of themselves. It gets a little trickier when the time changes twice each year, but in the summer when it's dark, I can open the door to their duck house and they all march right in and put themselves to bed. I tell them, get in your house, and they know what is expected of them. The same can be done with dogs. Cats may not be as easy to train, but they'll get a feel for what is expected. Everyone and everything needs a little predictability. Number 3, reward keeping boundaries. Putting a few little surprise treats or a new lovey in the bed never hurts. When they climb in at the proper time, they'll know something special awaits them. Number 4, think like the animal. Then think of your family. Once you know what conditions the animal is comfortable sleeping in, you can adapt it to keep your family safe during sleeping hours. Sometimes I must bring the ducks into our basement during sub-zero weather. Keeping them upstairs would be loud, smelly, and just gross. Even with them downstairs, I have to set boundaries. If they had complete run of the basement, while I would have fewer crickets and spiders, I would have poop, feathers, wood shavings, water, and duck feed all over the place. I can safely clean up all the ducky mess by temporarily keeping them contained to a pen. If not, our basement could have traces of damp organic matter. That is the perfect material for mold growth downstairs. Mold is an easy way to quickly make your family and other indoor pets sick. It could also be inviting for bacteria, fungus, and crawly, unwelcome critters. Here are some tips for keeping you and your family safe while planning for different kinds of animals. When considering bringing home a new pet, these tips will be essential to your health. As I said, I was naive and didn't realize the danger of getting my dogs into the bed with me. I just wanted to love on and cuddle them all night long. However, once it became a habit, I learned that there are some dangers and consequences to the health of my family and home. I'll have a link below to the CDC site that explains different diseases that can be transferred between animals and humans. Be sure to check that out because they have a list of all kinds of specific pet types. You can click on that to see what they can potentially give to your family as well as what they can catch from you. The types of animals and illnesses vary depending on where you live. The likelihood of catching or giving animal sicknesses depends on age and health conditions, but careful hygiene and healthy living conditions practically eliminate any danger of that happening. And that's good news because we love sharing our home with all of our fun little furry, feathered, scaled, and hairy friends. We need to know how to live safely with them close to us. And remember, it's not just the sleeping quarters that you need to think about, it's where, when, how your pets are going to be fed and also get rid of their waste. All of those are factors that need to be considered before you bring any animal into your home or your yard. Each type of animal poop carries its own concerns. Cat feces can carry toxoplasmosis, potentially fatal for unborn babies and older adults. Dog poop is infamous for incubating various worm larvae. As squeamish as it is to consider, some larvae make their way through the dog's feet or humans' feet and end up in the digestive or respiratory tract. Duck and chicken poop carry all kinds of bacteria and viruses that can infect you and your family if you aren't careful with keeping things clean. I'm not trying to scare you with this information. I'm just trying to prepare you and keep you and your animals safe and protected. There are vaccines, supplements, and testing to help combat all of the germs. But keeping your animals, yourself, and home clean is your best defense against all the yuckies. Here's another tip if you need to give your animals supplements, vitamins, antibiotic, or whatever it may be. At some point, all domestic animals must be given something by mouth, nose, ear, or other. You need to know how to administer the medicine properly. I never thought I would need to give a duck antibiotic in my lifetime until it happened to us. Let me tell you, that is no easy task. We were by no means prepared. Know ahead of time how to administer medications to your pet. Again, before they're sick or injured in that nervous time, you want to be prepared and know in advance. But we have learned a few tricks after doing it a few times. Some preventative medications can be dissolved in the pet's water or food, but others are much more involved. Do the research ahead of time. Learning how to do something can be stressful when you're concerned for the well-being of a sick or injured animal. Then keep up the dosing schedule to protect you, your family, and the pet. I have a new pet checklist for any animal you may be considering in the description below the video, so be sure to check that out. Before bringing a pet of any kind into your family, check to see if a vet is within a reasonable driving distance. I didn't realize that when I brought home ducks that requires a specific vet for exotic animals. Apparently ducks are exotic. I also didn't realize that the nearest vet was over an hour away. That's the only one I could find after calling vet after vet in our area. I didn't find that fact out until I had an injured duck. If I had known ahead of time, then I could have planned and not been in such a panic with this injured duck driving over an hour to the nearest vet. Another thing to consider is the way the weather may impact the way you protect your pet and protect your family from your pet. When it's rainy for several days and mud and puddles can gather in the yard, mosquito larvae love mud and puddles. Dogs and cats can lap up the larvae, and adult mosquitoes can bite and infect them with heartworm. Ducks and chickens can wade through mud which mixes with their feces. This can lead to skin infections. If you love to snuggle with ducks and chickens, maybe that's just me. They have sharp little toenails. Bacteria get trapped under there, and a wayward toenail scratch can also cause human infection. Having some dry straw or wood chips on hand to sprinkle in the muddy areas may help with this problem. We also added gravel around our patio to cut down on the mud. Ducks love to dig in soft, moist soil. They will quickly turn any soft ground into a moat, especially up against your house, around the foundation, or around patios. Gravel allows for drainage while preventing them from digging into the ground with their bills. If the ground is frozen or snowy, you must protect tender paws and feet from frostbite. If you spread a path of dry straw or wood shavings, cats, dogs, ducks, and chickens are likelier to go outside to relieve themselves. Alternately, a hack is to use a roll of landscaping fabric. You can roll it up between the snowfall. It isn't the best option to use the landscaping fabric for ducks or chickens. They'll completely cover that pretty fast with poop. The wind is one of a duck's worst enemies. They can't stand up against it, and it dries out their poor little nares, making breathing difficult. They need some kind of brocade or windshield for windy days, and it needs to be something they can get to even if you're not around. Here are some cleaning hacks for your pets. You will keep a compost pile close to your chicken coop or duck house. This way you can quickly, cleanly, and safely discard waste while building up nutrient-rich compost for healthy organic fruit, berries, and vegetables. You can use those fruits, vegetables for your family, but they can also be healthy organic treats for your chickens and ducks. You will make your coop or house, whether it be for dogs, ducks, whatever, easy to clean. Here are some ideas. We built our duck house on top of a thick waterproof industrial pallet as its foundation. I also sprayed waterproofing or enamel on all the interior walls. Once I remove all the wood shavings, I can easily wash the walls and floors to clear all residual waste. This is so much easier and healthier than climbing inside the house or coop to clean it out. I also built a large door on the side wall that can be raised to scoop out the house. There is never a need for me to crawl inside the duck house for cleaning. I'll post a video in the future with detailed instructions on how I constructed our duck house specifically to keep it clean without me getting inside the mess. Here's my tip for being prepared for pet emergencies. I keep 2 bottles of activated charcoal from the vet for the dogs. I always have cornstarch or flour on hand to prevent our animals from bleeding quickly. Ace bandages, the wide, stretchy kind, are great to keep for sprains or broken wings. This is how we saved Pope and fixed her wing. We had some human ace bandages at home. I'll post a link to the video above on how specifically I was able to wrap and help her out with that wing problem. An odd thing to have in a pet emergency kit is maxi pads. These are great bandages when used inside a pet recovery suit or jacket. I did an entire video on how to make a recovery suit for your pet. The maxi pads stay in place and are easy to change once they become soiled. I know that some medicines that we take as humans are safe for pets, but you always want to check with your vet to see if anything new has come up that they've discovered that it is dangerous, and also for dosing indications. Now I'll tell you how my little dog sleeping with me caused me to have to go to the doctor for a rather painful procedure. I'm not trying to scare you, I just want you to be informed and know this is a possibility. I slept with my little dog snuggled up to me every night and never thought anything about it. Until a few months ago, I started having some hearing problems in my right ear. And again, I didn't think much about it because hearing problems with age is something that just kind of runs in my family. But I still wanted to get my hearing checked out to make sure everything was okay. Meanwhile, while I was thinking about seeing the doctor about this, I started having some really sharp, jabbing, searing pains in that right ear. And I'm not big on using Q-tips because I know that causes some problems of its own in your ear, but I thought, well, maybe something is jammed in there or something. So I took a Q-tip and just barely put it in the opening of my ear, and just sharp, searing, terrible pain happened, and I could tell everything was swollen in there. So I made an appointment to see the doctor. I didn't think too much about it because I had recently gotten over a sinus infection, and I thought I must be getting an ear infection just as a result of that sinus infection. That happens sometimes. So I went ahead and made an appointment and saw my primary care doctor. And she looked at my left ear, my good ear first, just to have something to compare it to, and she said that it looked great, it was pink, it was healthy. And then she went to my other ear, and once she put the otoscope in there, it was really uncomfortable, but I knew I had to let her look in there to see what was going on. And she made a noise and said something you never want to hear a doctor say. She said, I think I'll go get another doctor to take a look at this. Of course, I was kind of freaking out. What are you seeing in there? And she said she was going to go ahead and try to rinse it out, flush the ear, and see if she could get whatever it was to come out. My first thought is, oh my goodness, there's a bug or something in there. So I said, is there a bug? And she said, no, it doesn't look that way. but she didn't tell me what it looked like. She went on to flush my ear 15 to 20 minutes, and I had this cold water. She had heated it, but it felt cold in my eardrum, just pulsating against my eardrum. It was very painful. Something about that pulsing sensation makes you really dizzy. It does something to your inner ear. So the whole room started looking like it was tilting. And she tried her very best for like 15 or 20 minutes, and nothing was coming out. I had a very clean ear with something lodged in there close to my eardrum. So she went ahead and called in the second doctor. The second doctor assured me that the first doctor, she's one of the best that he's ever seen with cleaning out ears. So he was just very perplexed as to why she couldn't get this thing out of my ear. So he went on to get the otoscope and put it in my right ear, which was very tender and sore at this point. But again, I had to let him look. And he also made that funny noise and said, He said there was something lodged way up in my ear canal next to my eardrum. And all he could say it looked like, all he could describe it was as a hard mass covered in black, coarse hair. Which then I'm really panicking. I'm thinking, okay, something has crawled up in my ear and died. He got this thing, it looked like a little lightsaber from the Star Wars movie series in miniature form, and he stuck that in my ear, and I cannot describe the pain that followed. It was like, the only thing I can compare it to is labor pains, like contractions. If my eardrum were my cervix contracting, that's what it felt like. It was extremely painful, and I was saying ow, 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 and finally he pulled it out. He said, "Is there pain?" And I answered the obvious, yes, there is pain. He said, "Pain is not good." And he said that he could tell that there had been trauma where he was prodding in my ear, that it was bleeding a little bit. Duh. So this little tool that looked like a lightsaber, it had a little light on the end. He had been prodding in there, and I said, "Is there something alive in my ear?" And he said, "It's not now because I stabbed it," which is why it hurt so bad. But he didn't think it was a living creature, or at least at that point it wasn't, which then I'm really freaking out. But he explained that that pain was not a good indication, that he didn't want to continue to cause trauma. Thank you very much. But I did want this thing out of my ear. So I left the doctor's office feeling pretty creepy all over, with instructions to use a debriding agent for the next couple of weeks to break down earwax and maybe help that thing come out on its own. Didn't make me feel any better, but you better believe I used those drops religiously 2 times a day, until the point that my ear was getting raw and irritated inside, because there's a small amount of peroxide in there, but I was determined to get whatever this thing was out. In an attempt to get it out after I had used the ear drops for a few days, I figured I could replicate that pulsating with the water in the shower, with warm shower. So I got my head up at the shower head and found a really strong stream of water, and I would just kind of do like that and let that water shoot deep down in my ear canal. I didn't immediately feel pain relief, but I could hear a lot better, I could tell. And I looked down in the tub at my feet, and there was this little hard black mass. And I got to tell you, I was very hesitant to touch it. I stared at it for a good few minutes, contemplating, do I want to touch this or not? So I turned the water off, got a tissue, and picked it up, and I couldn't tell what in the world it was. So I took it to my desk, and it was small and it was hard. I couldn't even break it with my fingernail. I couldn't push my fingernail through it, but I could tell it was black, and it did look hairy. So I got my dermal tools out, and I started trying to pull this thing apart. And as I was breaking it apart and pulling it apart, I could tell, as I pulled them slowly out, these were actually pieces of my little elderly dog's hair. I could pull them out and they would become full length. They were wound up tightly, and earwax had encapsulated around them and hardened to make like a hard little rock with little jagged coarse hairs sticking out. So it was like inflicting pain on my eardrum. So my little dog's hair had basically become a torture instrument inside my ear canal right up against my eardrum. I went back to see the doctor again, and she informed me that most of the hair had come out. There's still a little bit of a discolored, kind of like a gray mass in there. It probably is some hair, but not as much. So I'm supposed to keep on using drops and trying to clear that out to get complete pain relief. It doesn't hurt nearly as often or as much now. I can hear better, not completely. I don't have all my hearing back in that ear. But long story short, there is a good reason to keep your pillow and even your bed clear of any animal hair. And the easiest way to do that is to keep the animals off the bed. If they're going to be on there, I would use a lint roller every night. Do everything I can to make a barrier or draw that dog away from the pillow and my head area at night. You also, a tip would be to use a contrasting color sheet to your dog hair. This is something so simple, but if your dog has white hair, you use a dark blue sheet. It's going to contrast and stand out. You can see exactly where that hair is and where your animals have been. Because even if you set boundaries, animals can be sneaky, and it's good to be able to see where they snuck and know if there's any hair on your pillow. I don't want this to happen to you. It was very scary, it was very painful, and a little bit embarrassing. If you can't find it in your heart to be separated from your pet when you're sleeping at night, just be sure to follow all of the tips and guidelines I mentioned. If you or your spouse use a CPAP or a BiPAP machine, any hair, dander, or feathers that are in the air at night can rest and land in that mask. When you put it on your face, that could end up in your throat or your lungs. So that's another reason to keep everything clean and maybe keep the animals out of your room altogether. I no longer allow our younger dogs to sleep in the bed with us at all. I keep my older dog away from my face. I find a way to give them cuddle time in a comfortable place to sleep without risking hair in my ear, nose, mouth, or lungs. One tip, if you must have an animal in bed, be sure to brush them out really well every night in a different room or outside before you bring them in. That may cut back on that shedding on your pillows and your bedclothes. And if you do have a CPAP or a BiPAP, you can always take the canned air that's for electronics and blow that mask out at night if the animals must be in your room. I love our pets, and I know you do too. I'm not getting rid of any pets. I'm just going to find a way to live with them, and I want you to be happy living with your dogs too. If you think of any tips for cutting back on shedding, keeping them off of your bed, or keeping them in a place to sleep more comfortably where you can see each other, let me know in the comments below. I would love to know more ideas. And say hello if this is your first time as a guest. I hope all these tips help. I'll see you next time. God bless.